Hello and welcome to Wallybois, and this happens to be an Opinel number 8 folding knife, locking folding knife. Very common they are here in France. But how do you sharpen them? Well, you see, you don't sharpen them like you would do other knives. No, and the reason for that is the grind. It's not the same as you'd expect on some folding knives, or any knives in fact. Now, if you have something like a little buck knife or something like that, you might have a grind where it has your primary grind which shapes the blade, and then you'd have your bevel on the end where you get the edge if you have a cross section through the blade. But with an Opinel, okay, you don't have that. And if you look at that, it is effectively all, there is no signs of a micro bevel, is there? No, there is kind of one, but it's tiny, all right? But the reason for that is because the Opinel blade is shaped like this. Kind of. I've exaggerated it, but like that. Okay? Usually both same on both sides though. And basically they go to a point. And the bevel, the micro bevel, is tiny. Okay? Which we do that towards the end of sharpening this knife. Now this one, as you can see, is in hell of a state. It's all rusty and that. I don't actually think it's very old. I don't. It's a carbon steel one. The other ones that I have are stainless steel. But I can feel it's really blunt here and it's been abused. It's been abused. Now, first of all, I like to make sure that there is no build up here, okay? Because you can get a lot of crap build up in this slot just there. So you want to get rid of that. A steel rule will do it quite nicely, like so. So make sure you've got nothing in there. Alright, else you can end up having a problem with the locking mechanisms. As you see here, I'll just pull that all out of it. You see that? The rubbish just come out of that gap there. And what happens is, when you try to open it fully, the actual back of the blade doesn't engage with the metal of the actual collar part of the Opinel number 8 knife. Now you can hear it now, before it's sounding muffled. So what we've got to do first is we need to clean the steel up and grind it to that point. And then we're going to put our micro bevel. But I'm not going to use any machines. I'm just going to do it by hand. Because I can. Alright, I'm going to bring it in a bit closer. Like so. Bring it right down here. Now I'm doing this video because somebody asked me to make a video on how to sharpen the Opinel knife. And I have done one before, but I put silly music on it, and I think that's annoying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the flat of the blade to help me. I'm not going to try and hold at a certain angle or anything like that. I'm just going to use the flat of the blade. Because all I'm going to do to start with is clean the blade. I'm cleaning the rust off the blade, lock the blade, and I'm going to clean the rust off the blade. If you've got the time to, yeah, it's quite a good idea to remove the blade. It isn't that difficult to do. You have to remove the locking collar first, because that ring there is where it sits over the top of the pin that goes through. It's like a stud that goes through, a metal stud, and locks the blade in place. But once you manage to, you have to leave this outwards, and then you can ride it over the top of those pins, and then you can pop the pin out and then take the blade out if you want. Sometimes that's easier to do that. But first of all, we're just going to clean the blade up. It might take a little bit of time. Now, if your water or your Windex or bling that I'm using, you notice it starts going dirty like that. Well, that means you're doing something. You're removing metal. In this case, I'm removing rust. Now, when I see people sharpen these things, or little round sharpeners, or little tiny things, yeah, got a very small diameter, don't do that. It's a really bad idea. I've seen loads of little video clips of people at these shows showing you how quickly you can sharpen your knife, and yeah, and it's all wonderful for, you know, until you've done like, I don't know, 50 odd sharpenings, and then all of a sudden you realise that your blade just looks like a bit like a roller coaster. So if you look there, I've already taken a lot of that nasty stuff off that blade there compared to that side. It needs a bit more work, so we'll carry on. Now, while you're doing this, okay, you're moving it back and forwards like so. I'm applying pressure to the back of the blade here, and then I rock it forwards to apply pressure to the front of the blade. Because I'm not just trying to clean the top edge of the blade, I want to clean the bottom edge of the blade. And considering there's a convex to the sides of the blade, you're going to need to be able to catch both sides, you see, all the way across its width. And you can go down the grit to make it finer as you go, if you want. You don't have to on the sides, to be fair, because in the sides that create, the flanks of the blade, that creates the actual edge. Make sure you lubricate regularly. You've got to lube your tool, you know. You've got to lube your tool. That's what she said. Right, there you go. Right, and I'm rocking it backwards and forwards as I do it. Not so back, so I'm only going to go as far as the blade actually allows me to. There's a limit. The limit is there and there. I'm not trying to lift the blade off. I'm just using the blade as a guide. That's all I'm doing. It's dead easy, you know. That's one of the nice things about the Opinel. If you're sharpening out in the field, these knives are so easy to sharpen with a flat stone. Now, I'm quite happy how that's starting to come along. Right, so let's do the other side, okay? Remember to keep an eye on that lock. You don't want that blade folding up on you. That's another reason why I think it's a good idea to remove the blade from the handle, because it can't fold up. If it folds up on you, it's like a guillotine, isn't it? You know, whereas if you can cut yourself, but you're not likely to cut your finger off. If you're actually, it's not a good idea, is it, to cut your finger off. See, this isn't locking very well. Let's get that back around here. There you go. It's quite an antiquated way of locking a blade anyway, to be fair. Quite good, because a lot of the police or gendarmes, or they catch you a knife like this, they don't realise it's folding, or it's a locking blade, because the laws regarding folding blades and locking blades are different, you see. They don't always realise that that's a lock on the side of the blade that locks the blade. But you can get one hell of an edge on these Opinels. One hell of an edge. All I'm doing at the moment is effectively polishing the sides and grinding up to where the micro bevel is going to be. What you don't want is a saw. That's what it felt like. I started cutting this little bit of paper earlier. And it felt, I was cutting, but it felt like a saw. You could feel the notches in the blade, which isn't a good sign. So I need to make sure I keep doing this until those notches are gone, before I actually start putting the micro bevel, which is where the real edge comes. Now I know there's all these guys out there with all these special gadgets. What special gadget am I using to sharpen this blade? None. The only thing I'm using is a sharpener. Now you can use an oil stone, you can use diamond stones which are faster, like this one. And these aren't there, these are tool pack ones, these are. I've got a set of 3 of these, and they cost me about 15 quid for 3 of them, you know, and they're nice thick ones. And I've had them years. I can't remember how long I've had them now, it must be 8, 9 years, something like that, maybe 10 even. And they get used a lot, as you can probably tell. I do quite often, don't always use Windex, I quite often use oil, a thin oil, basically white spirit and engine oil mixed together, and that way your tools aren't going to rust, because obviously this is what happens to the plating on the backs of your sharpeners, they tend to pit after a while. If you're using anything like that, it can cause rust. If you use oil, it doesn't. It's got to be very, very thin oil though, no, you can't go around using thick old engine oil. So I basically water down the engine oil with white spirit. Works pretty well, but it's very, very thin. So you've got a bit of lube for your tool, a bit of protection there. And you can see areas on here which are higher than others. So that's obviously higher than that area there, or vice versa. So that's higher than that area. So you can feel it when you're polishing it. Now I can feel that. I'm starting to get a burr. Now I'm pushing away from myself and rolling the blade a little bit at the moment. We're not ready to put micro bevel on yet. Feel the burr. So I'm if you watch what I'm doing, I make sure I'm going away from the edge. So I'm on this face, I'm holding it down and I twist the blade firmly actually, so I'm engaging the edge at halfway across the actual stone. And then away from me on the other face. So I'm basically going away from the edge all the time. Because what I'm trying to do now is so I've got a burr there. That's good. Right, more on that one there. This is the coarse. This is a 400 grit, this one is. So it's quite coarse. So that's not going to create a very sharp edge, but effectively I'm doing my grind. So far. It is very quick to do. I'll make it look it looks like it's going to take ages, but it won't. It's only because I'm doing it on a video. I'm not editing this video. Better luck. Unless I do something really stupid. I'll cut my finger off. Okay. Once you know you've got a burr all the way around, you know you're right at the edge. I think I am. I'm just going to work that point at a higher angle. If you're bothered about a point. Right, so. Yeah, I think we're getting there. We're certainly getting there. And I think we can change over. I'm not going to use this one to fine. This one here is. I'm not going to use these to finish off the fine edge because they don't go fine now. This is a 2,500 grit. Okay, which we're going to use for the last stages, and hopefully we'll be able to cut paper with it. We'll see. You know, like I say, I'm not editing this video, so there's no trick photography. I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm going to bounce and forwards to start with. I'm going to polish the sides a little bit with a fine one first, bringing it, twisting my right hand clockwise when I've got the blade facing away from me. So, like so. Bounce forwards on the side without touching. And bring that blade towards me like so. Then I'm going to do exactly the same but in the opposite direction. You can work the sides a bit more, you can polish them and shine them right up if you really want to. But does it really matter though? Not really. We try to make the tool that we can use. Once you've got an edge on it, you'll get away with just with a fine sharpener all the time. You won't need the coarse one again. But this one got in such bad state. It's getting there. Certainly it's getting there. Now you can go finer if you want. The steel on the Opinel, I can't remember which one it is now, but it's a very good grade of steel for getting a sharp edge. It really is. So I'm pushing diagonally towards the hilt of this blade, like so. Just making sure I'm engaging all the way along. So, yeah, the problem when you're sharpening with something that's round or there's little tools and what have you, you'll end up creating a roller coaster edge to your blade. How's that looking now? Oh, definitely better. Yeah, you could say that. So, it hasn't taken much to get a fairly good edge. Not much at all, really. We can get that sharper than that. But do I want to? I don't know. But we could do. So I'm just working the micro bevel now. So effectively I'm not flat now. I've brought it up a little bit. And if you are cutting paper with, what you don't want is notches in the blade. So one way to find out if you've got a notch in the blade is you feel it. If you run the blade along the edge of your paper like so, and as it's cutting through the paper you'll feel whether or not it's notching. This isn't. No, it's not notching at all. No, it's good. It's good. It's fine. As you see, it's fine. That is plenty sharp enough for a pocket knife. So there you go. Oh, wrong way. Let's go this way. We're back. Sort of. Get back up there, you. So that's how I sharpen an Opinel. So, as a brief overlook, I use as a brief overlook of what we just did. I used a 400 grit sharpener, which was a 400 grit sharpener, all right, to polish the sides up. You can make it more shiny, you might have it if you want. I don't see the point. And then once I got rid of all the crap and I started to get an edge on it with the 400 grit,
I then changed over to this 2,500 grit. None of these sharpeners are dead. This was about €4 or €5 from Temo. This one was. They work, so I have no need to expend a fortune on this stuff, you know. And what's the point of me demonstrating stuff that other people can't afford? It's pointless, you know. I've got loads of sharpening gear, and I always seem to come back to these cheap ass things, you know. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So as an overview, what we just did, we started off with the coarse. We kept it flat on the sides, and we just gently rocked backwards and forwards to polish off the sides. I didn't get clever with it and try and lift it out and all that sort of shit. And no, we used the blade, the flanks of the blade, as our guide. So we were rocking on the flanks of the blade. So easy, holding it down with 2 fingers like so, holding it down to the sharpener, and then we moved up to the 2,500 grit and basically did the same, but then we started bringing it up onto that edge and then striking back at the same time, lifting as you go. Yeah, so as you bring it this way, you're going backwards, forwards like that, and you're striking on the back. You'll need to lift it higher when you're doing the leading edge, the nearer the point. I don't know what you call the bendy bit there. The bend of the blade. As you come up there like so, effectively, so you've got to make sure you get that way, and then do it away from you like so, and that way you should get a fairly good edge. If you want to hone it as well, you know, buff it up, you can do that with strop it. You can do that with a piece of leather if you really, really want to, or if it's me, I just do it with my hands, just like so, and just take off a burr that way if you need to. The burr will be the finer the grit, the less burr you're going to get. Okay. Yeah, see? That was really sharp now. Yeah, so it's easy, really easy. Be careful about making things more complicated, harder than they need to be. There's no point. Lubricate your blade as you go, because that'll rust in there. Alright, eventually that won't rust because the oil will soak into the beach of the handle. This is the carbon steel one. There's a stainless steel version. The carbon steel you can get a better edge on, but you've got to look after it because it rusts. Anyway, I hope you found that of use on how to sharpen an Opinel blade like that one. A folding Opinel knife. And it is really easy. It really is. Did the job, didn't it, eh? Toodaloo! Don't forget to poop the like button.